Chris here. We are doing another short Q&A, answering some questions that we've gotten from all of you. Real quick, to all of our backers who've supported us thus far, we really, really appreciate it. It is totally awesome to have complete strangers come out of the woodwork and give us money, and we are very humbled by it. Though the other side to that is we need a lot more. We're about 40 days out till the end of our Kickstarter, and we're barely over the 1% threshold. So the good news is we're making a lot of connections with you all. A lot of you have really great questions, and so we're going to do our best to continue marketing Heroic Roll. Even if the Kickstarter doesn't work out, we're not going anywhere. Heroic Roll is going to be a thing one way or the other. We just want to take as many people along for the journey as possible. And yeah, that's it. So if you do have any questions for us, feel free to connect with us on Facebook. We have a Heroic Roll page, so you can connect with us. On Twitter, we are at Heroic Roll. And also our website, www.heroicroll.com. Bam. See, I'm good like that.
Easy.
Yeah, so Matt, we have just 2 questions for this Q&A, but I feel like the first one's going to be kind of lengthy, so let me ask it. What is going to make Heroic Roll better than other virtual tabletop platforms?
From my perspective, it's just kind of a modernization of a lot of stuff. Some of the other VTTs I've used have some really cool features, both graphically and otherwise, but we all boil down to the same kind of, here's a map, here's your characters, you can look at handouts and move them around and stuff. Maybe you've got a character sheet. We really want to just make that experience a little more streamlined and offer some features that a lot of other tabletops are not offering. Our ability to use baked-in light maps on existing maps or add them to new maps is pretty game-changing, as is our ability to chain maps together, so you can travel between battle maps at will as a player, or however the dungeon master allows you to. There's also some other ideas we have planned that would be really, really cool. We can do logic-based events. Say your players step on a switch in a dungeon and monsters pop out, or they fall in a pit, or they get teleported somewhere. We can handle that. That type of logic is pretty straightforward, since we are able to move things around the map and stuff like that. Additionally, our dungeon master controls are going to be a bit more robust than you might be used to. You will have very broad access to player information and other stuff like that. You'll be able to grab and move groups of players, save lists of players or enemies for later use. And the persistent entity model that we are using means that you'll have access to the monsters that you've used in the past. If they make another appearance, you can just grab them and drop them back in. Since the players move themselves, you no longer have to deal with their location on the map, making sure their vision is set up correctly and all this other stuff. It'll just already be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an awesome answer. For me, it's about mobile. The future is mobile. I consult with different software companies. Some are early stage startups, some are billion-dollar companies, and there's so much research and data behind the fact that younger people, and I am an old man now, so I'm allowed to say younger people, they're not going to ever own a desktop computer. Can you imagine a reality where the majority of people that use the internet don't have access to a desktop computer? It's happening. That is becoming a real thing. And I think that, software companies are starting to take a serious look at going mobile first versus anything else, and that's what they should do. And I truly believe like tabletop role-playing games have an opportunity in a 21st century to really leverage digital technology. There's a lot of great companies out there that want to do virtual reality, augmented reality, but that requires all this equipment and a high-powered system, and I think that's going to have their place. But I also think at the other side of it, people are still going to want to sit around a table or play online with their friends on a mobile device. And so that's where we come in to really, make that a reality. I love other virtual tabletop platforms. I'm a customer of like 6 of them right now. But I've had situations where like a player I'm playing with, their laptop isn't the most powerful. They're not on the strongest internet connection, and they can't load up the virtual tabletop software and use video and keep up with the conversation that the players are having. So I think that's where Heroic Roll's niche is going to be. I still think there's going to be a place for other virtual tabletop platforms. There are people that love to code and customize their virtual tabletop platform. They love to host it on their own servers. bless them. That would drive me insane, but people are smarter than me, and that's fine. But I think that's Heroic Roll is designed to be as easy as possible to use on mobile. So that's our approach. Not to say you can't use it on desktop. Of course you can. Having a big, beautiful map up on your screen is going to be awesome if you have a really big monitor, but not everybody does.
Yeah, and I think that's the crux of it, is like we are developing mobile first just so mobile is good. The features that you add on the desktop are an extension of what's on mobile. Like you're both getting a great experience. You just have more real estate on the desktop. But the idea is that we don't want to, kneecap anybody as they're going through this. We want everybody to have a really good experience. And mobile devices are way more powerful than a lot of people give them credit for. Like I grew up playing, Nintendo and Super Nintendo, and they are hundreds of times more powerful than those. Even the cheapest phone from 5 years ago will blow them out of the water as long as it's just a regular smartphone. And that's what we're aiming for. You can run Heroic Roll on an old device that has the capability of loading the web and using JavaScript and a few basic other features, or use it on a high-end gaming computer with a super great graphics card and get a really amazing experience. Our goal is to have all of those be accessible and have a similar experience between them without, compromising. And that is actually possible in a lot of instances and most of the time. So really exciting to see it all come together like that.
Awesome. All right, Matt. Our second and last question actually is, what is your favorite tabletop game, and what plans do we have to support different tabletop role-playing game systems?
So my favorite tabletop game is Dungeons and Dragons. I have played several editions, started in 3rd edition. I very briefly started a session in 4th edition and didn't go great. And then I've played 5th edition for quite a while at this moment. Also played Pathfinder briefly. I did not get nearly as much into it, but we got TPK'd pretty fast. And I was excited to try again, but my party was not. So yeah, I like tabletop games a lot. I'm a relative newbie in the number that I've played, but what was the second part of the question, Chris? I just forgot it. So.
What plans do we have for like supporting these game systems in Heroic Roll?
Oh, yeah. So the way we're designing, or the way that it is intended to work, is that the game kind of sits on top of the server architecture. Like the game is a set of variables that you send back and forth, and a lot of the rules are enforced by the dungeon master anyway. So what we are really providing is the ability to prompt someone for dice rolls, and then the window dressing around that, the system that the game is built on is going to be attached to your character sheet, and how the dungeon master implements the rules. The way monsters interact with players and stuff like that is programmable behavior, and we'll have presets for those games as they are added to support, or you can make your own if you're savvy. And we'll be able to support those games out of the box, but eventually we'll have, officially provided support from us that will give you a preset for that type of thing if your game isn't supported. So I think it's going to be a pretty broad and open experience for those type of things. But once again, starting with Dungeons and Dragons because it is the most popular, and moving on to the related ones that are the most similar, and then see where we end up from there. Is my plan and our plan, I think. So
that is our plan. D&D is my favorite too, but it was funny. 20 years ago when I started in college, I was really big fan of the World of Darkness games. I really liked playing comic book games like Mutants and Masterminds. Played a really long Star Wars D20 game for a long time, so I'm a huge nerd. I think. I have to shout out my favorite system to use for one shots. It's a system called Savage Worlds. You could play any kind of tabletop game genre you want: horror, fantasy, sci-fi, pulp. Horror, like a Call of Cthulhu investigation horror type thing. So I ultimately believe we'll have support for all kinds of game systems. Obviously D&D and other D20 sets will be supported at launch, but a lot of other tabletop role-playing systems don't have a lot of sophisticated rules that you have to worry about. Even though they have very big books, mathematically a D10 based system is easier to conceptualize and execute on a technical level than say a D20 system. So we're like Matt said, we're gonna let people create their own, and also that way they can introduce house rules into Heroic Roll as well, because I have house rules for my D&D games. I know everybody I know has some weird quirky rule that makes the game more enjoyable or smoother, whatever it is, and you can use that in Heroic Roll as well. So that's our plan.
Yeah, and like we've mentioned before, one of the ultimate goals of this is to make the computer and mobile experience roughly the same difficulty as just doing it on a tabletop. Things like moving tokens and stuff are automated for you, but the rules and stuff are going to be really similar. So just to make the game as approachable as it would be with physical pieces is what one of our goals is for using these devices. And streamline this stuff and knock off the rough edges and make it just a little more presentable in that way.
Cool. Well, Matt, thanks so much for joining me on this. But yeah, if y'all have any other questions, please let us know. We're happy to do more of these, and we'll post them up on our YouTube channel and on Kickstarter. And if you haven't checked out our Kickstarter yet, please do. Go to Kickstarter.com, search for Heroic Roll. You'll find our project right there. I know the web address. I have the web address memorized, but it's far too long for me to go through. So that's a much easier way of doing it. And like I said, you can find us on social media all over the place. And that's it. Thanks, y'all.
All right. Thanks, everybody.